Today, a Wyckoff top-down stock selection process. Certainly my favorite thing to do is to go on a treasure hunt looking for the best stock ideas. So we're going to do a top-down drill down into the market, into stocks, starting with the market, sectors, industry groups, and stocks. Hello, I'm Bruce Frazier, your host. Welcome to Power Charting. But first, save the date because there is upcoming a TSAASF annual virtual fall conference. So this conference is going to be a Zoom event, September 18th, 2021. It's going to be a great lineup of speakers. Please join us. Soon there will be information on the TSAASF website, tsaasf.org. Also coming up, a free event. There's going to be an August panel discussion, and this is going to be on August 19th from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. This is going to be a great event. We have virtually, these are all members of our working board at TSAASF. We have Philip Safakis, who is going to talk on the study guide and exam that TSAASF has for you to develop and improve your technical analysis skills. Rick Lenhart, who is a professor at Feather River College and teaches finance there, is going to talk about micro futures. Brett Vium is going to talk about IPOs and how to analyze them using technical methods. Brett is a professor and a teacher. He has in the past taught courses at Golden Gate University on technical analysis. And yours truly, I'll be there and I'll be helping to moderate, answer questions, and we're going to have a whole part of the session that's going to be oriented just towards your questions, your interest. We're going to look at your symbols, make charts, talk about them. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, save the date for these two events, and you can sign up for the August panel now. You can register and then be keeping an eye out for the virtual fall conference, which will be on September 18th. So put it on your calendar. Okay, so we are going to hustle through this. We have a lot to talk about. This again is the dollar as measured by the UUP, which is a ETN of the dollar index. Very long-term trend line. It's gone down in 2021 and touched this trend line. It's spending time building a cause, a Wyckoff concept. So it's building a cause for another move. It's already tested here at this arrow, tested the low that was made at the end of 2020 and is starting to rally up. Now, the big question is, can this turn into a rally back up towards the upward area of the trend channel, or is it going to just rally up to this resistance area? We don't know, but either way, a stronger dollar does have an impact on stock prices. And I want to just reemphasize that in this yellow shaded area, you can see back in 08-09, big decline in the dollar. 10-11, big decline in the dollar. 12-13-14, decline in the dollar. 17-18, decline. And then currently a decline that started at the COVID March lows in the stock market. Each one of these events has been accompanied by an important upward trend in stock prices. So a lower dollar seems to support a trend in stocks. And so if the dollar becomes stronger, will that slow or stall the upward trend in stock prices? We are going to keep a close eye on this. Also, I just put up this point and figure chart, which I've shown quite a number of times. We got right down into the lower area of this count objective range. Here we are down towards the bottom, and you can see a count being built for another move. So here's CPI. CPI is very important because this, which was reported today, is growing at a rate based on the July number. If you just multiply out the July number and compound it, it's about a 6.1% inflation rate going forward. And of course, that's assuming that every month will be like July's. Some will be greater, some will be less. That's a high inflation rate. This is a concern for consumers. Also, it's a concern for the Fed. The Fed has taken a lot of heat this summer, literally and figuratively, as they have basically been perceived as importing inflation into the economy because of the weak dollar and very accommodative policies towards money creation, money printing, QE, and the like, and also bond purchases into their balance sheet, 160 billion a month. So pretty spectacular. I'd like to point out up here that this arrow points to the fact that CPI, as you can see, is accelerating. This is a 75-year history here, and the 75-year, no, I guess it's not 75 years. So anyway, but it's, I must have truncated the chart, so please forgive me for that. But nonetheless, it shows a very long history back to 1980 for the CPI. And you can see that there's just a very steep spike. This spike is the result of this acceleration of the CPI. So anyway, here we go. And oh, also the black line represents 3-month T-bill yields, and they are down in the area of 0. Okay, so just keeping that in mind, and also how that could change the landscape for stock prices. So here you can see, this is the transportation average ETF. This mirrors the Dow Jones Transportations. We talked about this last time. I showed you this very chart. And you can see that we went below the channel. Well, we talked about this should be a place where this was a successful test of that low that was made in July. Sure enough, look what's happening. We have come up through this little gray downtrending line here pretty decisively with a big jump. Next stop is the upward trend line. And if we can get above this trend line, which should be short-term resistance, but if we can get back up into there, there could be an attempt to get back to the prior highs and also to the top of the channel. So this is a very interesting case. Later on, I'm going to drill down and show you how this sector work can translate into analysis on individual stocks. So hang on just a minute. In the Wyckoff method, we start with attempting to identify the present position and the probable future direction of the stock market as measured by indexes. In this case, we are looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We will look at other indicators also, and we will, you will see here that a range-bound condition was formed starting in May, all the way into July and now August, and a very short, sharp reaction here took out the bottom of the trend channel very temporarily. It bounced back up in, went to resistance, and then consolidated in a very tight range. That shows evidence of absorption of stock. This is a very interesting situation. We said at the time that we were looking for the potential for the Dow Jones Industrials to start to move up and out away from the reaccumulation, which we are identifying here. And you can see that we are calling this the danger zone, attempting to move away from the danger zone because this is where the resistance is top of the range. And we can see that when the top of the range is touched, it ultimately can result in a reaction back down towards the bottom. At the end of reaccumulation, we look for the conditions of bullish conditions of absorption of stock, completion of the reaccumulation, and the beginning of a new uptrend. Now, once we identify that, we want to go into the sector work. And with that, we will, and we do this not only with the Dow Jones, we do it with the S&P, we do it with the triple Qs, and so on. And I just showed you an example of the transports and how the transports look ready to attempt to get back up to their resistance area. You could see that the transports have been quite weak, quite a bit weaker than the industrials. This could all change as a result of the infrastructure bill and also the economy just sort of getting back in gear again in the second half. The next step in our drilling down into the market from the indexes is to go into the sectors. Here you can see we've done a candle glance, a really nice feature in stockcharts.com. The candle glance gives us a way to be able to look back at the sectors, at industry groups, at individual stocks, all on the same screen in these great little charts. And so here we're looking at a 6-month time frame. We've added relative strength. This is relative strength to the S&P 500. Now, we want to go through, scan through these sectors, identify the ones that look really interesting, and then start to drill into those individual sectors. So let me just highlight the ones that I find most interesting at this time. And so, for instance, as an example of one that is, I think, not at the top of my list would be, so for instance, here, XLY, consumer discretionary sector. Right here, you can see that this is consolidating. Relative strength is in a downtrend. So when relative strength is in a downtrend, we tend to think that it's going to, at least for the time being, underperform. Look at technology. All of a sudden, technology, which has been important leadership, is starting to top out on the relative strength and also is showing signs of stalling up here at these highs. But now let's go down and look at the industrials. The industrials appear to be in the completion phase of an important reaccumulation that coincides with the Dow Industrials. You can see a buying climax, automatic reaction, range-bound condition here. Now there's an attempt to go up and revisit the highs and the resistance area and look at the relative strength, which is now above its moving average and is attempting to also rally with price. That's very important to us. The other group that's interesting here is materials, XLB. These are all sectors that you can buy. These are ETFs. So you could actually go in and buy the whole sector if you chose to. We are going to keep drilling down, but that is a strategy, a consideration. So materials here, look at this. Look at this beautiful sort of a cyclic reaccumulation type structure. A base is being formed, a reaccumulation or accumulation is being formed in the relative strength also. Relative strengths above its moving average. We have the materials above its moving average and also attempting to mark up out of this accumulation type range, working its way back up to the highs. So that's very interesting. Energy stocks have been pretty weak for quite a while, and the relative strength is down here bouncing off the lows. We're going to keep an eye on this in case there can be a jump above the moving average, and here a jump up in the index. Now, look at staples. Staples could become interesting. This is consumer staples. It's jumping out, making new highs. The relative strength needs to follow. We've been real focused on and trading the healthcare stocks or investing in those. You can see the relative strength has been really good, along with price confirming an upward trend. Utilities are pretty good here. They're in a rising trend, and you can see this very big accumulation type structure goes all the way back to April. Now, one that I really like a lot are the financials. So the financials are building an accumulation here of sorts, a reaccumulation, you might call it. It's jumped up and out of that area and has gone on a really near vertical advance up to and through the old June highs. Look at the relative strength. That is confirming price. So I am very interested in the banks, insurance companies, consumer financials, et cetera. This is a very rich, interesting group here. And you can see that real estate has been sort of building maybe a reaccumulation, maybe a distribution, I don't know, but this is being confirmed by weakness in the relative strength. So there is a summary of how we can identify the sectors that interest us. The cool part is that there's a great way to drill in from sectors to industry groups. And we are going to, I've already done that work for you. And so let's go to back to this chart, and we will go in and look at some of the individual industry groups. Here you can see the trucking index. This is an industry group. So inside this group, this is inside the industrial sector. And so you saw there that we were really intrigued with the industrial sector. Also, we're intrigued with the transportation index. And so looking at that, let's go in and look at some of the more interesting industry groups. And what I've done here is I've put Chaikin money flow on top, talk a little bit more about that, relative strength on the bottom. This is daily data here, and we are going to look for the completion of reaccumulation and the beginning of markup. Now, as I had expressed in a prior episode, with Chaikin money flow, also your daily 5 that I did recently is on the subject of Chaikin money flow with Wyckoff, is you can see here the upward trend as the accumulation is completing. And also this is accompanied by a positive turn up in the Chaikin money flow. This is exactly what we want to see. Here you can see early on or near the completion of a larger reaccumulation over here that the Chaikin money flow starts to go positive. And in fact, there was one last sort of a minor spring that occurred over here, but then the uptrend began. And so this confirmed. I have put some of the more interesting stocks. These are not recommendations. I want you to go look at the whole group, but these are symbols in the industry group that we're looking at here. Here is railroads. Railroads, you can see a reaccumulation. Both of these groups are stronger than the transports, and both are represented in the transportation index. And here you can see relative strength is turning up above the moving average. Here you can see that there's an attempt by railroads to get above their moving average. And here are 3 stocks for you to investigate, and additionally more than that. Okay, here we are looking at commercial vehicles. So this looks like a potential reaccumulation type structure going all the way back to, in this case, March. And all of a sudden it's come to life and near vertical advance out of this small trading range reaccumulation type structure, and it's working its way back up to the highs. Chaikin money flow has gone positive on this event. So that is confirmation of money flow that there's an attempt here to complete this sideways action and go into a new uptrend. Somewhat helpful. We also need to have this confirmed by relative strength, and it's trying to get above the relative strength here and start to rise. And so we'll keep an eye on that. Here you can see transportation services. So in the case, again, stocks to look at for you to explore in this area, but transportation services looks pretty constructive. It's made a decisive move above its moving average. This whole area of the relative strength looks like a large reaccumulation that encompasses the whole year. Well, look at this reaccumulation. It has a upward tilt to it, and now it looks as though it wants to just go into a near vertical advance. And at the end of this whole area, near the end, you can see that shaken money flow is starting to go persistently positive. So a lot of good things here in the transportation services. Do check out some of the stocks here and go look at some others. Here is the steel index. Steel is very interesting, and this is in the materials sector. Steel is at the bottom of this accumulation type area, built a base. Look at this nice sign of strength as it got up through the resistance right along here, and then had a very shallow, dull, sideways trading area before going absolutely vertical. And this is a very impressive advance. Also note that it accompanies a turn into a positive CMF. So that is constructive. That again is in the materials sector, and here are 3 stocks for you to explore. There are many in the group that are interesting. Aluminum. So here's 3 aluminum stocks. Sideways trading area, nice construction, sign of strength right here. Backup is shallow and dull. This is a very good sign. You have a very sharp rally off of a spring type low, and then the reaction is very dull, quiet, and brief, and then a near vertical advance that goes right up through the resistance area. Could pause here for a little bit, time will tell, but also note the relative strength is in a near vertical advance and is in a distinct uptrend. So we want to drill down and look at these. Okay, so a few more. I'm going to go pretty quickly. I'm running out of time. Non-ferrous metals. This is part of the materials group. Here are 3 stocks for you to explore. Do look at more of them. It's kind of an interesting group. And so here, a range-bound condition that really started back in February. This has a minor spring type action. Look at this little area of potential reaccumulation in the larger area. This is now having a near vertical move, a backup, dull, shallow, quiet. Now it's trying to turn up again, get above this resistance area along here, and then revisit the highs potentially. And then we also need to see this confirmed by relative strength. Also note the very large bulge in the Chaikin as this little accumulation area completes. Here, similar look in heavy construction. Again, this all could be related to the infrastructure package. And so these all could be beneficiaries of that. And also they are part of the higher prices in the producer price index, which shows strong demand for these materials. Heavy construction, well, you already have determined looking at this that there's a very interesting sideways type move, a cause being built. It's working up to resistance. And now look, the Chaikin is right here, ready to cross the 0 line. So very interesting place. Relative strength is trying to get above its long-term moving average, which is now pointing down, needs to jump above that to confirm price. Pretty constructive. Check out these stocks. Industrial supplies. Remember, we talked about the industrials and how they looked really, really good. Well, this is the industrial theme, the sector. Now we're drilling into individual groups, industrial suppliers here. And again, you can see the attributes in this sideways trading range, and already the Chaikin is rising. A base is being built in the relative strength, and now we need to see a jump. Do explore the group and these stocks. And then also here, industrial machinery, very interesting group. And so you can see here that this one is already up and out above resistance. The relative strength is now rising above the moving average. Really interesting. Go check out the stocks in this group also. Now let's turn our attention to the ARK Innovation Fund. You've heard me talk about that in the past. And in many ways, this looks very similar to what we just talked about. February climax, and then a very sharp reaction. So it's a range-bound condition, selling climax, automatic rally, range-bound, potential reaccumulation forming here. This is very attractive. What I wanted to do was spend the rest of the time that we have together, look at the Chaikin, by the way, is to look at the individual ARK stocks. Now, I'm not recommending ARK. I'm not recommending the individual stocks. I'm making the case here from last week that the growth segment of the market that is below the mega caps. So I consider a mega cap to be a stock that's 500 billion in market cap and up. Apple is up around 2.5 trillion in market cap. It's just a massively large number. We see that there are a lot of really good stocks that are in the sub $500 billion market cap range, and they're much smaller than that, but they're not by any means small companies. So the question, or the thing that we talked about last time, was using these smaller cap growth stocks, seeing them come back to life. And so let's look at these and see whether or not maybe some of the ARK stocks can tell us whether or not there is the potential for renewal of these second tier growth names. What I'm going to do is we're going to drill into these individual smaller cap, really mid cap growth stocks, and look at the ones in ARK, because that is their stock and trade, is to own those stocks they believe to be really innovative, disruptor kind of companies, and see whether or not we can see a common theme there. It's a way to drill down from, say, let's call ARK an industry group, for instance. It's a theme, it's an approach. It's not really technically an industry group, but they have a unique approach. So we're going to drill down into these. I'm going to end the power charting program here, and then we will continue on with looking at these individual ARK stocks, not all of them, but a few, after in the YouTube video. So if you're interested, go and you watch this live, go to the YouTube video of power charting and just pick it up at the end, and we will keep going. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you being part of this program, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.